In the misty shadows of a mountain, ancient stones speak of battles fought and souls lost. Here at Monte Cassino Abbey, the sacred mingles with the spectral, echoing the cries of those who passed through its halls. A sanctuary built from the devotion of monks, now forever marked by the horrors of war. Monte Cassino stands resilient, a living testament to the intertwining of faith and the phantoms of history. Each crumbling wall, each etched stone, tells a story, and as the veil of twilight descends, the whispers of the past beckon the curious and the brave. Welcome back to Ghost Stories of the Battles, where history intertwines with the supernatural, illuminating the tales that dwell in the shadows of our past. We invite you to walk with us through the ethereal echoes of time, where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and the spirits of yesteryear weave their narratives into the fabric of the present. Tonight, you will find stories that delve into the heart of anguish, sacrifice, and the enduring spirit of those who once walked among us. Standing since the 6th century, Monte Cassino Abbey has borne witness to centuries of devotion and loss, hosting monks, pilgrims, and soldiers whose fates became intricately linked with its sacred grounds. This hallowed site has seen the rise of faith and the fall of empires. It sang with the voices of prayer before being silenced by the cries of battle. The devastation wrought by the bombing in 1944 left a scar upon its sanctity, intertwining religious devotion with the grim saga of war. As we delve into the tales from this extraordinary place, we will explore the ghosts of its past, guardians of memories that reflect both human frailty and the unwavering search for solace. Let us begin our journey with a poignant tale from the late 1940s. As a former monk returns to his sacred home, seeking to reclaim the peace that eluded him amid the chaos of conflict. This is the story of Brother Antonio, whose heart, heavy with sorrow and remembrance, climbs the winding path to the abbey, eager to rediscover the grace that once filled its halls. The echoes of prayer haunt him as memories flood back fragile threads of a life devoted to God, now shattered by war. What will he find upon his return? Will the abbey once again offer him refuge, or will it reveal the otherworldly truths of those who linger still, caught between worlds? Join us as we unravel the layers of history and spirit, guided by the whispers of time, as we explore the return to silence. Story Fun. The return to silence. The Brother Antonio stood at the foot of the winding path that led up to the glistening stone face out of Monte Cassino Abbey. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows, and the air was heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. Years had passed since he had last walked these sacred grounds, years marked by loss, destruction, and the echoes of war. His heart felt like an anchor, pulling him backward into the turbulent seas of memories he had tried so hard to leave behind. As a monk, he had devoted his life to prayer and service within these ancient walls, a life filled with the harmonious sounds of hymns and the soft rustle of prayer robes. But now, as he climbed the path to the abbey, he carried the weight of sorrow, the regrets and ghosts of a history torn apart by conflict. The world had changed, he had changed. Yet, the abbey remained, a solemn witness to all the battles fought and souls lost. He clutched a small wooden rosary in his hand, a familiar comfort amidst the uncertainty, whispering prayers to calm the tempest within. Each step he took echoed with the whispers of prayers that had once cascaded like a gentle waterfall, but now lay stilled beneath the scars of war. The abbey, with its octagonal towers and aged stones, stood resilient against time and tragedy, eager to welcome him back. But Brother Antonio wondered, would it still embrace him as it once had? Would he find peace again among these hollowed walls? Or was it only silence that awaited? As he ascended, the distant bells of the abbey rang softly, their tones wrapping around him like a forgotten melody, awakening the slumbering remnants of his faith. He drew closer, the haunting beauty of the place mingling with a bittersweet sorrow, enough to make him pause. Would the spirits of the monks who had walked these halls before him still linger? Would they recognize him? Or would they too be lost in the relentless march of time? Finally, Brother Antonio crossed the threshold into the abbey's grand nave. The The silence struck him like a soft blade, profound and enveloping, as if the very air were charged with the prayers of those who had come before. The sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting a kaleidoscope of colors that danced upon the floor, a beautiful yet elusive display of divine light that felt like a beacon to his weary soul. The atmosphere was heavy with an indescribable weight. Yet as the silence draped around him, he instinctively knelt in reverence. He recited the prayers he had memorized throughout the years, his voice at first shaky but gradually finding strength as he felt the sacredness of the space wrap around him. The echoes of his words lingered, waving a tapestry of remembrance that filled the void of the stillness. As he rose to his feet, he was abruptly struck by a sound, a distant hymn floating through the air. Though he stood alone within the vast chamber, the melody was hauntingly beautiful, evoking deep emotions of both love and sorrow. His heart raced, recalling the many hours spent singing alongside his fellow monks, their voices rising in harmony as they lifted their hearts to God. With cautious steps, he ventured deeper into the abbey's embrace. Each corner revealed remnants of the past, charred statues gazing mournfully into the heavens, with tears of ash trailing down their once polished cheeks. It was as if the very stones wept for the souls who had suffered and perished within this hallowed ground. As he walked past a damaged statue of Saint Benedict, a sudden flicker of light caught his eye. Was it a trick of the memory or something more? He paused, entranced by the ethereal glow that appeared and soon dissipated. Could it be the spirit of a long-lost monk, lingering in sorrowful embrace? His breath caught in his throat, forcing him to hold back a wave of emotion as visions flooded his mind. He could almost see them, the spectral forms of former monks, their solemn faces bathed in the soft light of faith, wandering the cold stone halls, beckoning him to join their sacred prayers. It was a bittersweet sight, one filled with assurance and grief, stirring within him the longing for the companionship and community he had lost. He closed his eyes, allowing their energy to envelop him, feeling the powerful connection between the living and the dead. In one poignant moment, he envisioned himself sitting in the cloister, the familiar scent of incense wafting through the air, surrounded by brothers whose ladder rang through the archways like sacred bells. But this reverie was interrupted by the heart-wrenching sight of the charred chapel, remnants of the bomb that had struck on that fateful day in 1944, leaving destruction in its wake. The cathedral's apse was fractured, bearing the scars of violence like the monks' souls, forever marked by history stained with blood. The weight of the past enveloped him, an amalgamation of mourning for lives lost, those brave monks who had prayed for peace even as chaos descended upon the holy locale. The sight told him a story of unfulfilled dreams and untold sacrifices, urging him to remember. With trembling resolve, Brother Antonio stepped forward, determined to honor their legacy, to let their voices echo once more. Suddenly, the warmth of a familiar presence washed over him, reminding him of the monastic teachings he once knew so well, the belief that the sacred could not be extinguished, even amidst destruction. This was not mere rubble, it was a sanctuary that had weathered loss through unyielding faith. As the hours slipped by, Brother Antonio wandered through the abbey's crumbling halls. He could hear the soft rasps of prayer filling the air, the walls reverberating with the eternal voices of monks who had once dedicated their lives to devotion. The faint flicker of candlelight danced in the corners of his vision, whispers fraying at the edges of his consciousness. He approached the altar, where incense still wafted faintly, as if time itself had melded with memory to create an everlasting aroma of holiness. He knelt, placing his hands upon the cool stone, and in that moment, he felt a presence beside him, an invitation to share in the sacred silence that enveloped the space. Brother Antonio's prayers became conversation, murmurs floating into the atmosphere, intertwining with the essence of the abbey. He shared his grief for the loss of his brothers, for the shattered dreams of peace, and for his own heart, stained with remorse. And yet, in that vulnerability, he found strength, the ability to embrace the past without allowing it to destroy his spirit. The hours blurred together as shadows loomed longer, and the deepening twilight cast enchantment over the room. Each statue held great significance. Not just reminders of tragedy, but also teachers of resilience. With reverence, he touched the faces of the figures around him, feeling the coldness dissipate into warmth. It was not merely a gesture, it was communion with the holy. And then, as though the abbey itself had guided him to a truth hidden beneath layers of despair, a soft hymn floated down from the rafters, filling the air with an ethereal light that reached out and embraced his heart. Antonio had always believed that music transcended realms. Now he was certain of it. When the last notes fell silent, the overwhelming stillness once again prevailed. Yet now it felt different. He could sense them, the souls of the past woven into the very fabric of the abbey. They were guardians of its history, whispering from the shadows. The sound filled him with hope, a promise that the sanctuary would endure, that the threads of devotion would not unravel with time. Tears slipped down his cheek, mingling with the dust of the abbey floor, tears for loss, tears for hope, and an acknowledgement of the unbreakable bond he shared with those who had walked before him. He finally felt an acceptance, an understanding that while their bodies may be gone, their spirits lived on, entwined with the stones he'd once called home. As he prepared to leave the abbey, Brother Antonio took one last look at the symbols of faith around him, cracked and charred, yet vibrant with memory. He felt an inexplicable connection to their stories, their lives intertwined with his in a dance of sorrow and grace. While the ghosts of the monks and the soldiers who had battled for these sacred grounds would never fully leave him, he embraced their presence as a continuing legacy. They were not lost, they were forever part of him, and he of them. In that solemn silence, Brother Antonio discovered that even in darkness, sacredness prevailed. Hope sprouted amidst the ash, whispers of prayers unraveling the cords of despair. He walked away from the abbey, a renewed sense of purpose echoing in his heart, carrying with him the lessons of faith that had transcended time itself. As he descended the mountain, he felt lightness in his spirit, a realization that while the past may haunt, it also nurtures. The departed would always remain, guardians of their shared history. And here, in the heart of Monte Cassino, Brother Antonio knew his own journey had been rekindled by the shadows of those who had walked before him. With the sun setting behind the ruins, the past whispered yet again of loss and valor, drawing us closer to another tale woven into the fabric of Monte Cassino. A soldier's story of discovery, a narrative that would change his understanding of life, death, and the lingering shadows of memory. Stories of the past echo in the 1960s. Poland bore the weight of a history etched in the scars of war. Among its veterans, Jacob Nowyhawk carried his own burdens as he revisited Monte Cassino Abbey, a place where he had once fought bravely during the Italian campaign. The echoes of gunfire and the cries of his fallen comrades clung to him like a second skin. He was seeking solace among the historic ruins, hoping to find peace within the hallowed ground, the very site where valor turned to sacrifice. As he approached the abbey, the scent of wildflowers mingled with that of damp earth, transporting him back to quieter days before the chaos of conflict had invaded his life. The abbey stood resolute against the azure sky, its ancient stones telling tales of devotion and despair. Jacob picked his way through the remnants of war, pushing aside memories that threatened to surmount him. The history of the place wrapped around him, a comforting embrace yet filled with reminders of loss. As he whispered a silent prayer for those who had fallen, soldiers and monks alike, the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the ruined battlements in hues of crimson and gold. As night enveloped the site, Jacob prepared to stay overnight, hoping that the quiet darkness would dull the edges of his memories. The chill in the air was tangible, like the weight of his thoughts pressing down on him. He made a small camp a safe distance from the abbey's walls, aware of the sacredness surrounding him. He sat beneath the stars, contemplating the fateful day in May 1944, when the Allied forces charged up the hill in a desperate bid to reclaim Monte Cassino from the Axis powers. The camaraderie he shared with his fellow soldiers came flooding back. Together, they had traversed the same paths he walked now, men filled with hope yet shadowed by uncertainty. But now, in the silence of the night, it was only Jacob who remained. In the stillness, whispers began to fill the air, faint yet distinct words that seemed to dance on the edge of images in his mind. Brotherhood, they sang, like a soft breeze brushing against his cheek. Unable to resist, Jacob rose and stepped outside, drawn towards the echoing resonance. As he stood gazing into the darkness, a chill slid along his spine. Before him, bathed in silvery moonlight, figures began to materialize, soldiers in vintage uniforms, their faces young and resolute. Memory surged, and every detail burned into his consciousness. They walked in solemn lines, marching toward Monte Cassino Abbey, their footsteps muted yet purposeful. Jacob's heart raced. These were the very men he had fought beside, long since buried beneath the earth, their lives extinguished in the brutal theater of war. It felt surreal, an illusion of the past colliding with the present. Were these specters a product of his tired mind, or something more? Tension wound tightly in his chest. A part of him longed to reach out and connect, to embrace these lost brothers, to understand their sorrow. Yet the other part warned him of the fleeting nature of their existence. As the moon climbed higher, the procession continued, carrying with it a sense of both unity and mourning. As dawn began to break, casting its pale light into the world, the soldiers slowly faded like mist upon the morning. Their figures dissolved into the shadows, leaving Jacob alone once more. The weight of their absence pressed upon him, igniting questions of sacrifice and the nature of loss. He stood surrounded by the palpable silence, staring into the well of memories that connected him to that fateful day. He could feel it, a pulse beneath the ground, a throbbing echo of grief mingled with honor. The boundary that separated life from death seemed fragile here, woven together by the threads of remembrance and sacrifice. Jacob pondered if the soldiers were trapped between realms, bound to this sacred land forever, their tales intertwined with the essence of Monte Cassino. As the sun rose fully, illuminating the ruins before him, Jacob felt an indescribable sense of peace. He had confronted the layers of his memory's grief, guilt, brotherhood, and hope, and for the first time, since the battle, he understood that it was not just the ruins that were sacred, but the souls that had once inhabited them. The abbey's walls, weathered yet resilient, held the stories of those who had fought, those who had prayed, and those who continued to linger, guardians of a history that went beyond earthly life. He knelt on the ground, placing his hand on the cool stones, allowing the stillness to envelop him. "You are not forgotten," he said quietly. "Your sacrifices have not vanished. We remember you." As the light continued pouring over the hills, illuminating the serene beauty of the abbey ruins, Jacob felt a connection transcending time. The echoes of his fallen comrades would never fully fade. They would linger in the hearts of survivors like him, waiting for others to hear their stories and acknowledge their pain. As Jacob turned to leave the abbey behind, the monumental structure stood there, solemn and serene against the backdrop of the new day. He felt lighter, as if the burdens he carried were no longer solely his own. The fallen soldiers had protected the sacred heart of Monte Cassino, and while he might have returned as a wary veteran seeking closure, he found instead a need to honor the legacy they had forged through acts of bravery. In those early hours, Jacob discovered a profound truth: history, like the spirits of those who served, is woven into the very fabric of the places we visit. Every stone at the abbey held testimonies of faith and valor, an intimate connection between past and present. He walked away with the knowledge that these memories, while painful, were also a source of strength. They sought recognition, acknowledgement, and an eternal promise not to be forgotten. With the sun rising over the abbey, casting shimmering rays across the ruins, the day promised new beginnings. Next on our journey through the remnants of Monte Cassino, we come across a modern tale of discovery and archaeologist who unearths hidden knowledge entwined with the spirits of those who once prayed here. Story 3: The burnt manuscript in contemporary times. Renowned archaeologist Dr. Lina Rossi arrives at Monte Cassino, intent on uncovering the secrets buried beneath the rubble, unaware that history has its own way of revealing itself. Alina had spent her career digging through the past, piecing together fragments of stories long forgotten. With each find, any lingering doubts she had about the power of history were laid to rest. Yet, as she approached Monte Cassino Abbey on this brisk autumn morning, a chill ran down her spine. The air was thick with anticipation, and though the sun shone brightly, a shadow seemed to hang over the ancient stones. The abbey loomed ahead, a combination of solemn beauty and tragic history. Almost 1,000 years ago, it had been a bastion of faith and scholarship. In her mind, Elena could completely envision the monks who had once roamed its cruciform halls, dedicated to their studies and prayers. But the scars of war left indelible marks, not just on the physical structure, but deeply within the spirit of the place. As she stepped closer to the charred remains of the abbey, a powerful energy enveloped her. Memories entwined within the very stones whispered secrets she yearned to uncover. She hoisted herself up the stairs leading to the once sacred library, her determination surging with every step. It was here, among the remnants of lore and loss, that Alina felt she could do the most impactful work. She wasn't just searching for artifacts. She was wading through history, hoping to uncover the truth hidden within its pages. Yet as she looked at the burnt, crumbling walls, something otherworldly seemed to watch her every move. Navigating through the ruins, Alina inhaled deeply, tasting the mix of ash and ancient incense that still faintly lingered in the air. Shadows danced in the periphery of her vision, elusive yet beguiling. The atmosphere felt heavy yet reverent, as if she were surrounded by the spirits of devout monks, silently guiding her to the stories buried beneath the debris. "Stay focused," she whispered to herself. The stubborn urge to turn back gnawed at her. The sense that this place breathed memories instead of time had eclipsed her resolve. Scanning the debris, she bypassed blackened timbers and charred books, shivering slightly as the atmosphere shifted around her. Though the remnants suggested devastation, Alina's instincts pulled her deeper into the library's heart, a labyrinth of stone, now blackened by soot. In the center, beneath a pile of rubble, she spotted a glimmer of something different. It was an ancient manuscript known for its holy inscriptions, previously believed lost to the flames. With her heart racing, she carefully excavated the fragile pages, feeling the weight of the discovery settle in her hands. As she turned one brittle page, a sudden warmth washed over her, a pulsing energy unlike anything she had ever experienced. In that instant, the outline of a burned handprint appeared on the parchment, as if the spirit of a long-departed monk had reached out to connect with her. The sensation sent shivers down her spine. What on earth? Whispers floated through the dust-choked atmosphere. They were not disembodied voices, but rather a collective calling, "Help us remember." The fine hairs on the back of Alina's neck stood up as she instinctively turned toward the source of the sound. The air became thick with something: guilt, regret, perhaps longing. Each heartbeat resonated with the hopes, dreams, and tragedies of the souls tied to this sacred ground. Alina pressed on, compelled to understand the call. The manuscript's resonance seemed to awaken memories within the hollow spaces of the abbey. Each whisper grew louder, echoing the prayers exchanged within these walls so long ago. Her heart raced. Fear was washed away by an overwhelming desire for connection. The walls seemed to breathe around her, pulse with history, as if each stone held a tale waiting to be told. With her surroundings flickering with shadowy movement, she sensed more than saw devotion materialize in flickering forms. Figures clad in gray and brown began to waver into visibility, spectral monks. Their faces, solemn yet peaceful, drifted around her. They moved like clouds against a full moon, hovering with purpose. Feeling an imbued kinship with them, Alina approached, captivated yet cautious. "Are you here to show me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Unsure if she was addressing figments of her imagination or genuine specters, she stood frozen, rooted in shared anguish. An image flickered in her mind: Lorenzo, a young monk who had studied unfinished works of theology before the war changed everything. Clear as day, she could see him clutching a manuscript in hope before simply vanishing into the chaos of destruction. The vividness of it all was heart-wrenching. The burn mark on the manuscript beneath her fingers expanded, as if responding to the presence of his memories. "I'm here. I will not forget," she pledged, feeling the heavy silence break through the distant echoes of forgotten prayers. Swept up in a wave of emotion, she glanced back at the manuscript and gasped. The pages transformed, revealing the scripts written in delicate ink that once glimmered with wisdom, but now felt tainted by grief. The handprint, still fresh on the burnt paper, pulsed rhythmically, urging her to understand why the monks had held the abbey sacred even in its wreckage. Suddenly, a voice broke through the silence, the pleading, sorrowful murmur of many. "Remember us." It was commanding yet tender, filled with longing. Swallowed by the pulsing visions of destruction and loss, Alina felt engulfed in the collective grief. And then the room filled light, a congregation of memories spilled over, the life of the abbey unraveling around her. The rituals, the prayers, the dedication rang with a clarity that transcended temporal limitations. They showed her the cherished hopes nurtured through love, for a community devoted to preserving faith. The walls sang with decades' worth of teachings worn on weary shoulders. Alina witnessed everything: the battles, the sacrifices, the moments of transcendence, all perpetually woven together. With every tear she shed, she felt the spirits reassured, a weight lifting from her chest. "I promise," she whispered softly, tears blurring her vision. "I will share your stories. I will honor your dedication." As the vision faded and the ghosts retreated into the sacred realm, Alina felt a warm breath against her cheek, the soft caress of gratitude suspended in time. The room returned to its desolate yet sacred atmosphere, yet the air remained charged with something transcendent. She found herself once again standing before the manuscript, imbued with newfound understanding. In the final moments of darkness lifting, Alina stepped back, clutching the manuscript tightly to her chest. The weight of its history transformed her. The burden of despair gave way to reverence and responsibility. She understood that she was not merely an archaeologist, but a custodian of all that had passed through these holy grounds. "I will safeguard your legacies," she vowed as she stepped out into the crisp morning light, her heart buoyed by a sense of purpose. The sun glinted off the abbey's ruins, illuminating its resilient spirit, and she felt the peace of those interred here wash over her in soothing waves. As she prepared for her journey back to the world beyond, she looked over her shoulder one last time. The abbey, like a sentinel, stood watch, guarding its secrets, filled with the spirits of the faithful who had once prayed within its walls. They remained, forever entwined with Monte Cassino, their souls echoing in every shadow and flickering flame. Alina turned away with the weight of the past on her shoulders, but with visions of hope in her heart. She carried not just a manuscript, but a pledge of promise to illuminate the stories within, rekindling the light of what once was amidst the shadows of loss and despair. The light of dawn beckons forth new pilgrims who seek blessings within the abbey's embrace, and they too shall find what the spirits have to offer. Story 4. Whispers in the morning light. A soft mist settled in the valley as dawn broke over the ancient stones of Monte Cassino Abbey. The abbey's silhouette, a solemn guardian of history, stood proud despite its scars. As the sun's golden rays began to paint the sky with hues of pink and orange, a new group of pilgrims arrived, their hearts filled with quiet reverence. They hailed from various corners of the world, drawn by the spirit of the place and the tales woven into its walls. Among them was Sarah, a spiritual seeker looking for healing after a personal tragedy; David, a history enthusiast longing to understand his family's ties to the abbey; and Elise, a journalist hoping to resurrect the legacy of humanity encapsulated in these ruins. United by a collective yearning for connection, they set out to explore the sacred grounds, unaware that the past they sought to honor was waiting to embrace them. as they walked through the archways. The air was thick with a sense of expectation and tranquility. They shared stories around a small fountain, an old relic turned serene gathering point, igniting their hope and desire for solace. It was here in this moment of shared humanity that the ghosts of Monte Cassino stirred, ready to recount their own stories, knitting the experiences of past and present into an eternal tapestry of faith, loss, and redemption. Walking further into the abbey, the pilgrims entered the heart of the complex, the grand church with its soaring ceilings and intricate frescoes. The atmosphere shifted, charged with an energy that felt almost tangible, a blanket of reverence that enveloped them. Sunlight filtered through the stained glass windows, casting beautifully colored patterns on the stone floors, imbuing the mournful space with a sense of divine presence. Eager to participate in the dawn mass, the group found their seats in the wooden pews, anticipation flooding through them. As morning light crept into the sanctuary, a palpable silence fell, allowing each pilgrim to bow their heads and absorb the sacred moment. A soft chant began, echoing through the hallowed halls, resonating with untold stories from centuries gone by. The dynamic harmony was suddenly tinged with an unsettling note, a whisper that seemed to swirl around them. "My child, do not forget." The voice sent shivers through Sarah, igniting a surge of emotion that welled deep within her. She opened her eyes, scanning the room, heart racing as her fellow pilgrims looked bewildered, equally affected by the ethereal experience. "What was that?" David asked, glancing nervously around. The church remained unusually still, yet the weight of history pressed in upon them, intermingling their hopes with the desires of those who had come before. Ignoring the lingering unease, they proceeded with the Mass, their voices rising in unison, with the chants that echoed in harmony with the world outside. Each note carried the combined sentiments of sorrow and joy, a heartfelt tribute to those who had been lost amid the ashes of war. After the service, the pilgrims gathered near the statue of the Virgin Mary. Intrigued, Elise stepped closer, brushing her fingers along the telltale bullet wounds etched across the statue's chest, remnants of the abbey's tumultuous past. It was as if the statue bore witness to the horrors experienced on these very grounds. "What's engraved here?" Elise wondered aloud, her journal ready to capture the moment. Sarah felt a chill surge through her, as if the spirit of the place beckoned them closer. "It's a wound that is still healing," she replied thoughtfully, a scar born from a history of pain and loss. The group stood in contemplation, their thoughts drifting toward the souls intertwined with the abbey. It was evident that the war had not merely scarred the structure, but tinged the very essence of what the abbey represented, a sanctuary that pulsated with the energy of all who had walked through its doors. Suddenly, a soft breeze drifted through the chapel, carrying the faint scent of incense, a fragrant reminder of prayers long uttered. The atmosphere thickened, and once again, that intimate whisper echoed, now more urgent, "Remember, you are not alone." These words had a profound effect on Sarah. She had spent the last few years feeling isolated in her grief, yet the voice stirred something within her, an urge to connect with the collective heart of humanity. Surrounded by pilgrims, she realized she was part of a much larger story, one that bound them through shared loss and understanding. As they continued to explore the abbey, feelings of connection deepened. They wandered through the cloisters, breathing in the aged scents of wood and stone. Shadows flickered in the corners, leading Elise to pause, capturing a glimpse of spectral figures dressed in monk robes. They moved silently, as if performing a sacred task, the soft rustle of their garments barely audible. The sight sent a ripple of fear and awe through the pilgrims. But Sarah stepped closer, her heart thundering in her chest. "They were here," she whispered, recognizing these apparitions as those who dedicated their lives to the abbey. "We need to honor their memories." Drawing courage from each other, they held hands in a circle, closing their eyes, the cool stone beneath them grounding their thoughts. Together, they whispered a silent prayer, honoring the lives of the monks, soldiers, and countless others intertwined in this sacred history. As the sun rose higher overhead, illuminating the remnants of the past, the spectral figures dissipated, leaving behind an unmistakable sense of peace. Gradually, the pilgrims wandered to the memorial site dedicated to the fallen soldiers, recognizing the intricate tapestry of lives lost within the abbey's shadow. There, they lit candles together, illuminating their hopes and prayers, a gesture that echoed the indefatigable spirit of those who had existed within this sacred space. Standing there, united in grief yet bolstered by the strength of one another, they began to recount their own griefs, the personal losses that brought them here. Sarah shared her story of loss, a heart-wrenching tale of a sibling taken too soon. As she spoke, tears flowed freely, not just stemming from grief, but from a newfound sense of community, empathy allowing their burdens to lighten. David spoke of his grandfather, a soldier who had fought courageously but returned home haunted by what he had seen, rotting from the inside out until his demise. His confession wove a deeper connection between the group, each of them becoming a thread in an intricate narrative of shared humanity. "We carry them with us," Elise said quietly, scanning the list of names inscribed on the memorial plaques. "They may be gone, but their stories will continue to resonate with those who remember." Feeling the call of their shared commitments, the group formed small prayers of promise, dedicating their lives to honoring the sacrifices made within the walls of Monte Cassino. Eternally intertwined with the ghosts who lingered, forever grateful for the echoes of humanity that filled the air. The final moments of their pilgrimage culminated in the rising sun, painting the morning sky with warmth, illuminating the abbey and spirit anew. They each brewed a profound realization. The sanctuary's trials were an everlasting reminder that the bonds of love, faith, and sacrifice would endure beyond the realm of life and death. As the pilgrims prepared to leave the abbey, each felt a profound sense of purpose settling in their hearts. They carried different stories, different sorrows, but that shared experience transformed them, creating a bond that stretched beyond time and space. The whispers they had heard earlier lingered still, but now they were filled with affirmation and strength. "I won't forget. I promise," Sarah declared, her gaze turning toward the motionless stones surrounding them, understanding they were shaped by countless lives, both sacred and lost. With the sun warming their backs, they stepped outside, the morning light illuminating the road ahead. Just beyond the entrance, a shimmering reflection danced on the dew-laden grass, a reminder of the ancestors and spirits who walked the grounds with them. "You'll come back," David said, more a statement than a question, infused with hope that felt almost tangible. Each of them nodded, silently agreeing that the bond they had formed was not just a fleeting moment of connection. It was a commitment to continue carrying the stories of the past into the future. As they crossed into the sunlight, they felt the gentle caress of the wind upon their cheeks, as if the abbey itself was whispering its gratitude. They left Monte Cassino not just as individual mendicants, but as keepers of its living legacy, ready to share the whispers of its history and honor the sacrifices that shaped their very existence. In the gentle morning light, the pilgrims understood the power of remembrance, carrying pieces of the abbey with them as they ventured forth into the world, each thread woven together into the ever-growing tapestry of lives intertwined by love, faith, and the enduring whispers echoing within their hearts. The stories from Monte Cassino Abbey remind us that history, while marked by tragedy, also embodies resilience and hope. Each character, Brother Antonio, Jacob, Dr. Elena Rossi, and the modern-day pilgrims adds another thread to the profound tapestry of the human experience woven within these ancient stones. Each story is a poignant reflection on loss, faith, and the enduring power of memory. The echoes of the past reverberate through time, teaching us that the sacred and the spectral often coexist, creating a space where the living can connect with those who have come before. Brother Antonio's journey reveals the healing power of faith amidst despair. The haunting sounds of hymns and whispers of prayers serve as a reminder that love and devotion transcend even the most harrowing experiences. Through his emotional pilgrimage, we understand that the spirits of the past can guide the living, encouraging us to seek solace and strength in our shared history. Jacob's tale illustrates the camaraderie forged in battle, resonating with the sacrifices of soldiers who fought bravely, leaving a part of themselves entwined with the very earth they walked upon. His revelations at Monte Cassino underscore the fragility of memory and the importance of remembering those who have fallen. Their stories, while tinged with sorrow, also evoke a deep sense of honor and gratitude, urging us to carry their legacies forward. Elena Ross's excavation of history demonstrates that the quest for knowledge is not merely an academic pursuit. It is a bridge that connects us to the souls who once inhabited these sacred spaces. As she unearths the past, she engages in a dialogue with those who came before her, promising to honor their sacrifices while seeking to understand the rich tapestry of stories that define Monte Cassino. In acknowledging the pain and turmoil, she also finds beauty in their resilience, reaffirming her commitment to share their narratives with the world. The modern-day pilgrims, drawn to the Abbey's majesty, remind us that the pursuit of spiritual connection is timeless. Their shared stories, prayers, and revelations illuminate the ongoing influence of Monte Cassino as a site of hope and renewal. As they move through its hallowed grounds, the sunlight filtering through stained glass serves as an emblem of divine light juxtaposed against the darkness, signifying that even in the shadow of tragedy, there is the promise of rebirth and the continuity of faith. As we honor the ghosts who linger, let us carry their stories into the world, understanding their messages of love and sacrifice. Each tale is an invitation to reflect on our shared humanity, challenging us to both confront and embrace the complexities of our past. In doing so, we nurture the spirit of remembrance necessary to heal the wounds of history and foster compassion for one another. If you found solace in these tales, join us again for more ghostly narrations. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Ghost Stories of the Battles. Together we will keep these echoes alive, ensuring that the lessons of the past guide our hearts and inspire our future, for within their wisdom lies the strength to face both light and darkness with courage. In the end, we are all pilgrims in this life, connected through the whispers of our shared journey, forever entwined with the souls of those who walk before us.